of course, like there is many things. If I'll go with this article and without this article as well, then I'll say biotechnology is something where you're using the nanotechnology, right? And for the farmers, especially IT sector, is also like technology also work in this for the farmers, like in the crops and cultivations. And now you are seeing the most of the things in based on the technology, and those are actually improving our this harvesting and all, and the
Okay. Yeah.
cultivation.
Thank you very much. You know, actually, we got to know more about from your point of view. So if you have that article, just please go on your article now. We are just eagerly with
But my
what
point would
exactly
be
your
like,
article.
right now, of course, if I'm going to give my point of view, so then I have to think, then I have to speak. Oh my God. I'm thinking to read something so that maybe I can also, again, I can be plus up the same things.
Sure. You please go on.
In India, the majority of people is involving in agriculture, but it is not the remunerative enough. Remunerative enough. If you want to just if you'll get the words from my, what I'm saying is, can you just write it down the word as well?
Which word?
Like some words are just like remunerative,
Okay,
right?
just wait.
So not everyone knows, of course. So
Yeah, it's kind of
that
vocabulary
we'll
we
have
use.
discussion. Yes, we'll have
We're just
discuss
picking up the difference.
on those as well. Remunerative, like remunerative. Can you write it down? Remunerative. remunerative. Oh, he is gone. All right, let it be. Are Rodin? You disappeared, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually,
so
I got a call.
remunerative.
Actually, I got a call.
Okay. Remunerative means something which is beneficial, which is profitable as well. Something which is giving that it. Let me write it down then. Yes.
No, you
Yes.
speak on.
So
I'm writing
yeah,
it.
you can also write it down like if it is so. Something which is beneficial, something which is profitable. Okay. Something which you are getting advantage of something, rewarding
We
and
will keep
all.
using this term remuneration. What is the monthly remuneration? Like it's kind of holistic profit and all. You try to indicate. Okay, fine. You go on. One is remuneration.
Yeah. So it is kind of hard work, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it is also related to the hard work.
Yes.
Or related to the agriculture or the work as well. So in India, the majority of population is involving in the agriculture, but it is not the remunerative enough, especially in areas which did not go through the stages of the green revolution, the areas which is not covered by the green revolution, right? I mean, green revolution is let me just tell you, I don't know whom I'm going to teach. Actually, there was a green revolution which comes into in like in 1960s, and there was some area which was covered by the green revolution, like Punjab, Haryana, some UP, half of the UP, of course, but not all the India, of course, like because it wasn't successful for the all the India, and there was some irrigation pattern and everything like has been changed when the green revolution comes. So like the water, the absorbing the water that was reduced, like in the agriculture sector, uh, and the growth of the, you will say, the growth of the crops was increased by itself, because they were using some specific things for the green revolution, means some chemical fertilizer or agrochemicals. Hey Joseph, I think it harder than the metaphysics what you discuss. No, it is not harder. I'm not going to discuss it. I'm just only reading, yeah. So I mean, especially in areas which do not go through the stages of the green revolution, okay, where the areas which is green revolution wasn't covered. And in this scenario, biotechnology holds good potential to transform agriculture. In this scenario, biotechnology holds good potential to transform agriculture. It can affect all step of the production. It can affect all steps of the production chain, from the agrochemical inputs to the final food processing. From the agrochemical inputs to the final food processing. Under the biotechnology, plants, bacteria, fungi, and the animals whose genes has been altered by the manipulation or recombination DNA technology are called the genetically modified organism, GMO, and GMO technology has brought significant changes in agriculture and the areas related to it. Tissue culture is the science of the cultivation animal plant tissue in the prepared medium, and technology based on this can be harnessed to achieve crop improvement objectives. Now the crops have been made more tolerant to abiotic stress, cold, rough, and salt and heat. So the farmers do not have to worry about the weather condition and can help the plants adapt to environment stress and the chemical changes. It has reduced reliance on the chemical reliance on the chemical pesticides pest resistant crop. It has reduced reliance on chemical pesticide pest resistant crops, which is pocket friendly for the farmers and the eco friendly for the consumer by the eliminating harmful chemical from the ecosystem. Post harvest losses have been Post-harvest losses have been reduced by the increasing crop's ability to withstand the transformation period without being perished. Efficiency of the minerals uses by the plants has been increased by it, and the prevents early exhaustion of the fertility of the soil, so a piece of land can be used for the long time for equal good yields. It has enhanced the nutritional value of food, like a vitamin A enriched rice, which increase the market value of the product and profiting the farmers and improving the human health. Plants developed using the biotechnology naturally resist specific insects, weeds, plants, and the diseases. Today is no loss of crops due to these reasons, and for example, BT crops. In additional, it has been used to create a trailer-made plants to supply alternative resources to industries in the form of the starches, fuels, and the pharmaceuticals, which can boost the agriculture industrial relationship, uplifting the farmers. Good morning, Rosie ma'am. Good morning, Jeet. Hello, bye bye. The benefit of the biotechnology are especially meaningful at a time when our global population is growing and our demand of the food is increasing, mainly in the developing countries. Biotechnology allows farmers to grow more food on less land using sustainable farming practices which are necessary for them to have a good income and a better living standards. Biotechnology is a powerful tool to feed an increasing world population, but its positive and negative potential should be carefully evaluated. It's reading practice. Yes, indeed, it is a reading practice, and also like my own content which I'm gaining.
Hello, Senorita the Reader.
Hello. Uh, so, so how are you? Hello, how's the day? How are you? I cannot hear you, Shiv. Your voice is not coming. So, all right. Uh, First, we come up with a genetically modified organism. A genetically modified organism (GMO) is any organism whose genetic material has been altered using genetic engineering techniques. And the exact definition of the genetically modified organism, what constituted genetic engineering, varies with the most common being an organism altered in the way of that does not occur naturally by mating and natural recombination. A wide variety of organisms has been genetically modified (GM) from the animals to plants and the microorganisms. Genes have been transferred within the same species across the species, creating transgenic organisms, and even across kingdoms. New genes can be introduced or the endangered genes can be enhanced, altered or knocked out. Creating a genetically modified organism is a multi-step process, and the genetic engineering must isolate the gene they wish to insert into the host organism and combine it and with the other genetic elements including the promoter and the terminator or reason and and often a selectable market. A number of the techniques are available for the inserting the isolated genes into the host genome, and recent advancement using the genome editing techniques, notably CRISPR is CRISPR, have made the production of the GMOs much simpler, and Herbert Boyer and the Stanley Cohen made the first genetic modified organism in 1973. A bacterium resistance to the antibiotics kanamycin, the first genetically modified animal, a mouse, and was created in 1974 by the Rudolf Jensen. And the first plant was produced in 1983 and 1994, and the flower sour tomato was released, the first commercialized genetically modified food. And the first genetically modified animal to be commercialized was the glowfish in 2003, and the first genetically modified animal to be approved for the food use was the aqua advanced salmon in 2015. The bacteria oh god. Bacteria are the easiest organism to engineer and have been used for research, for production, industries, protein purifications, including the drugs, and agriculture and the art. There is a potential to use them for the environmental purpose or as a medicine. Have been fungi have been engineered with much with much the same goals and viruses plays an important role as a vectors for the inserting genetic information into the other organism. And this use is especially relevant to the human gene therapy, and there are proposals to remove the virulent genes from the viruses to create vaccines. And plants have been engineered for the scientific research to create new colors in plants and deliver vaccine and to create the enhanced crops. Genetically modified crops are publicly the most controversial GMOs. And in spite of having the most human health and the environmental benefits, the majority and the engineered for herbicide tolerance or insect resistance, and the global rise has been engineered with the three gene that increase its nutritional value. And the other prospect of the GM crops are as a bioreactors for the production of the biopharmaceuticals, biofuels, or the medicines. Animals are generally much harder to transform. The vast majority are still at the research stage. Mammals are the best model organism for the humans, and making one's genetically engineering to resemble serious human disease important to the discovery and the development of the treatment. Human proteins expressed in the mammals are more likely to be similar. Human proteins expressed in mammals are more likely to similar to their natural counterparts than those expressed in the plants or the microorganisms. Livestock is modified with the intention of improving economically important traits such as growth rate, quality of the meats, milk consumption, disease resistance, and the survival. Genetically modified fish are used for the scientific research as pets, as food source, and the genetic engineering has been proposed as a way to control mosquitoes, a vector for many deadly diseases. Although human gene therapy is still relatively new, and it has been used to treat a genetic disorder such as the severe combination immunodeficiency and the Leber's congenital amaurosis. Many objections have been raised over the development of the GMO, particularly their commercialization. Many of these involves GM crops and the whether food produced from them is safe or what the impact growing them will have on the environment. And the other concern are the objectify and rigor of the regulatory authorities and containment sorry contamination of the non-genetically modified food, and control of the food supply, and patenting of life, patent which is patent, so patenting of the life and the use of the intellectual property rights, IP rights. And although there is a scientific consensus that currently available food derived from the GM crops poses no greater risk to the human health than conventional food. And GM food safety is leading issues with the critics. Gene glow impact on non-targeted organisms and the escape are the major environmental concern. Countries have adopted regulatory measures to deal with these concerns, and there are differences in the regulatory for the release of the GMO between the countries, and with the same of the most marked differences occurring between the US and the Europe. And the key issues concerning regulators include whether GM foods should be labeled and the status of the gene edited organism. Roden, thank you so much. Yeah, I wasn't expecting this. Yes, Jeet. Nowadays, due to the bad weather conditions in agriculture, more diseases found on the crops due to the production has decreased day by day. Yeah, that's the basically reason, and that's the concern of every single government who is a developing country, especially while they were having the population load, or of course the food and the production has been little less, and diseases, of course, that's diseases also somewhere they just get the persistence. I mean, it is kind of when you are once you are making a medicine for the one disease, that start persisting, or their own resistivity, that create their own resistivity. So the disease, the name of the disease and the way of disease has been changed by itself, and now the another things will come up, like another disease will come up, and that's how it is growing. But yeah, there is a concern of the growing this production of the crops and everything. So that's because of the biotechnology and this technology like GM modified, and those are the, because they those somewhere there's many side effects as well, but right now they are not manifesting such things, but some few of because many times it is kind of the article which come into the criticism. In a one hand, it is increasing the like production as well in some way, and that's also a little bit like it's having some bad impact in our metabolism or the human body, because those just create the resistivity in our body somewhere. Anyways, let me define the concept of the carrying capacity of the ecosystem of the relevant as environment, explain the concept of wild planning and sustainable development of the region. So that's okay. Capacity, carrying capacity of an ecosystem. So let's read this this one, like concept of the carrying capacity of an ecosystem as relevant to the environment, and also try to understand the concept of the sustainable development or everything. So carrying capacity is something which is while we were having the resources, which is we call the natural resources, right? So we are having the natural resources once the population got exceeded, right? I mean, population is more and the natural resources not enough to provide the resources to the human. At the same point of there is a unstable, it is just got unstable, or the balance is not there. So for their survival. So it depends on the carrying capacity. I mean, what kind of and what how much environment has having a carrying capacity. The carrying capacity of an ecosystem is the size of the population. a carrying capacity of an ecosystem is the size of the population that can be supported supported indefinitely upon the available resources and the services of the ecosystem. In the order, in the in the broader sense, carrying capacity also means all the plants and the animals which an area of the earth can support at once, and change in carrying capacity for one species affect other populations in the area. Sustainable development which entail the maximum use of the resources without damaging the ecosystem, without damaging the system's regenerated capacity has definite role to play in a future policies planning, and sustainable requires managing all households, individuals, communities, national and the global, in way that they ensure that society our economy and the society can continue to exist without destroying the natural environment on which we all dependent. Population control the nation that resource limitations must eventually constrain the growth of the population is appealing, but appropriate estimation of the reason carrying capacity would help to force a definite course of planning. Women's sensi- sensitization Women's sensitization education towards reproduction choices can play a dominant role in controlling population. Economic planning, by carefully assessing the present and the future availability of the local resources and the economic zones, can be planned, which will help in mitigating the adverse effect of economic activities. The establishment of Coca-Cola which bottling plants in the Plachimada, Kerala in 2000 resulted in the depletion of the groundwater in the area and was shut down in 2004 due to the widespread protest. And the careful assessment of the reason carrying capacity can help us prevent such incidents. Agriculture management. The concept of the carrying capacity of an ecosystem can be very useful in the proper crops management across the length and the breadth of the country. And it has been found that the farmers are overutilize the capacity of the land without giving any due importance to its regeneration, which has led to the problems of the desertification in Punjab and Haryana. Farmers in the water-stressed area of the Maharashtra are growing water-intensive crops, which have created tough like the condition in the region. And the prior estimation of the carrying capacity can help avert such chronic conditions. Underuse capacity of the food production and the biodiversity. Using the appropriate technologies, advancement and the sustainability in the food production methods and the diversifying the use of the biological resources. Use of the biological resources can help the attain harmony between the natural resources and their utilizations. Resource management. Adopt Adaptive management in the most widely accepted solution of the confronting the unpredictability of the renewable resources. Natural resources management must consider the ever-challenging interaction between the physical and the biological system and the react according to the acquired experience and the historical knowledge in the continuous iterative learning process, and the current ethos of the sustainable development is slanted towards preservation of the replacement capacity of the natural resources rather than the maximum use. However, the unceasing growth of the world population may eventually bring in equilibrium between two the fa- the two phase To face this future with confidence, and humanity must endeavor to maintain the Earth's carrying capacity at the productive, at sustainable level, though improved logistic foundation and the more cooperative politics, climate, and the better scientific understanding. Biotechnology, biotechnology has offered the modern medical devices for diagnostic and the preventive purpose, which include diagnostic test kits, vaccines, and the radio-leveled biological therapeutics, and used for imaging and analysis. And human health is a major growing concern worldwide because of the infectious diseases. Biotechnology has played a dynamic role in improving the challenges regarding to the human health. It has flexibility to reduce global health and differences by the provision of the prom- promising technologies and health life quality and the expectancy of the life have been increased worldwide through the services provided by the biotechnology. Malnutrition mainly arises due to the lack of the essential nutrients and the vitamins in the food of the ultimately results in death, and the biotechnology has played a major role in eliminating these problems by the producing nutrients and enriched food such as a golden rice and the maize and potato and the soya bean etc. And biotechnologies has also played an important role in the controlling the environmental pollution through the biodegradation of the potential pollutants, and this reviews sketch improvement of the human health by the use of the biotechnological advance in the molecular diagnostic medicine vaccines and the nutritionally enriched genetically modified crops as a waste of management. Biotechnology contributes much towards the growing the public and the global health needs. It has revolutionized mankind since its existence. It provides effective diagnostic, prevention, and the treatment measures, including the production of the novel drugs and the recombinant vaccines. It gives effective drug delivery approach, new method of the therapeutics and the nutritionally enriched genetically modified crops and the fact method of the environmental cleanup and health life quality and quality and the expectancy of the life have been increased worldwide throughout the services provided by the biotechnology and the parasites and infectious disease like the acquired immunodeficiency syndrome, which is AIDS, 4-6, and the tuberculosis, which is TB, have been diagnosed rapidly or at relatively low cost. And the molecular diagnostic tools, including the polymerase chain reactions, which is PCR, polymerase chain reactions, recombinant antigen, and the monoclonal antibiotics and monoclonal antibodies have been used for the purpose. And biotechnology has offered modern diagnostic test kit, which is rict, rixial, bacterial, and the viral vaccines, along with the radio-labeled biological, therapeutical for imaging and analysis. Vaccines have eliminated smallpox, polio. Vaccine have eliminated smallpox, polio, and the other deadly diseases for the last 100 years. And biotechnology has made the advancement in the vaccination by making the recombinant vaccines that have the potential to eradicate non-communicable diseases like cancer and the DNA vaccines, viral vector and vaccines, and the plants-derived vaccines, and are found to be more effective against a number of the bacterial and the viral disorders. Therapeutic protein have a large influence on non-communicable diseases responsible for the over 60% of the death in the developing countries, and the transgenic bacteria, yeast, plants, and the mammals. New desired genes are introduced into these systems to produce the therapeutic protein of the interest in the large quantities, and they and are then purified. And the most important recombinant therapeutic protein include the erythropoietin, erythropoietin for anemia treatment, and interferon alpha against the leukemia and the viral diseases, and the insulin against type 1 diabetes, which is mellitus, and have been produced. Other therapeutic agents include growth hormones and the cytokines, recombination blood products, and the monoclonal antibodies. Gene therapy produces the molecular farming Gene therapy produces the molecular farming agent and the engineered tissues products and xenografts, bone grafts, and the collagen and the heart walls have been successfully engineered. Biotechnology offers relatively cheaper drug and the vaccine delivery tools, and they eliminated blood-borne infections caused by reuse of the needles. And drugs and the vaccines are delivered efficiently in the controlled manner, and thus avoiding the use of the needles. Drugs can be propelled into the body speedily by the gas jets and can be diffused into the body and can also be inhaled through nasal sprays. Drugs are effectively delivered into the body using nanoparticles. Recent advances in biotechnology have reduced drug doses required for a particular treatment. Genetically modified crops are a beneficial product of the biotechnology which fulfills the requirement of the essential nutrients and the vitamins in the body, and they are helpful in the physical and the cognitive development of the children's. Novel and the desired gene are introduced into these crops, which become nutritionally enriched crop with growing needs of the health care among the people worldwide. Example includes the iron-rich rice, which fulfill the requirement of the iron and therapy preventing anemia. Golden rice is rich in vitamin A, and the deficiency of which cause blindness among a lot of children in the developing countries. Potato has been genetically engineered to have all the vitamins and thereby satisfying the nutritional needs of the every individuals. Genetically modified food has become a part of the staple foods to increase the life quality, and the other enriched genetically modified food include the flax seeds, corn, maize, and the tomatoes and papaya, squash, and the soya beans, sugar beets, canola, and the cotton seeds, and biological fungicides and the herbicides and the insecticides have also been produced to control the pest. And biotechnology has tremendous applications in environmental cleanup for the sake of the human health and containment. Soil, water, air are being cleaned by using the microorganism or the plant in the process of the bioremediations, and the microorganism and the plants have the ability to detoxify organic waste pollution and heavy metal pollution caused by the mercury, cadmium, and the lead radioactive waste as well. Yeah, but this my leppy isn't working. That's the problem. Otherwise, I'll come up with the reading together. Yeah. That's I wanted from the beginning, but the thing is like it's impossible to do that because this application wasn't working in my laptop. Yeah. Disaster preparedness. Disaster preparedness refers to the measures taken to prepare for the reduce and the effect of the disasters and predict and the prevent disasters, mitigate their impact and the respond to an effective cope and their consequences. These are the achieved through the programs that strengthen the technical and the managerial capacity of the government, organizations and the communities. Disaster preparedness is a continuous and integrated process resulting from a wide range of the risk reduction activities and the resources. Important of the disaster preparedness, which is first one is a risk assessment to the point out which measures to implement and early warning systems. Second is life safeguarding equipment, for example, the cyclone and the shelters. Third is resources and the emergency kits in the anticipation of the needs and maintaining the emergency rosters and the evacuation plans, emergency information and the communication system. Training to ensure adequate emergency response capacity and maintenance of the pre-preparedness level, public education and the pre-preparedness campaign. Hazard zonation mapping and the disaster mitigations. Zonation mapping is one of the disaster pre-preparedness mechanisms to mitigate the risk of associated with the landslide and the landslides and the landslides involve the mass movement of the loose soil and the uncompact rock materials under the effect of the gravity and along or sliding plans. According to the recent study, India is among the most landslides affected countries, accounting for at least 28% such events in the past 12 years. In such a scenario, hazard zonation mapping will help disaster mitigation in the case of the landslide. Landslide hazard zonation (LHZ), landslides hazard zonations zone or zonations. Mapping refers to the division of the land into the homogeneous areas and the ranking of these areas according to their degree or of the actual or the potential hazard caused by the landslides and the mass movements. The susceptibility of a given area to landslides can be determined and deposited using hazard zonation, and once landslide susceptibility is defined, intervention projects can be developed which avoid, prevent, or sustainability mitigate the hazards. And these maps provide the important information to support the decision of the urban development and the land using planning. Also effective, the utilization of these maps can considerably reduce the damage potential and the other cost effects of the landslides. The LHZ landslide hazard zonation maps identifies the delineate unstable hazard-prone areas so that the environmental regeneration programs can be initiated adopting suitable mitigation measures. Even if the hazardous areas can be avoided altogether, their recognition in the initial stages of the planning may help to adopt the suitable precautionary measures. And the landslide and their consequences are still a great problem of the many countries, and particularly in India due to the rapidly increasing population. And the most recent example of being that of the Kerala, that was the old data. And for the recent landslides, hazard zonation mapping service serves as one of the many components in the integrated disaster management planning. access to affordable, reliable, sustainable, and the modern energy, which is SDG 7, is one of the 17 Sustainable Development Goal (SDGs) adopted by the international community in 2015. It is the sine qua non is achieving SDGs as it is directly or indirectly linked to the other sustainable goals such as an industry, innovation, infrastructure, and health, well-being, gender equality, sustainable cities, and the communities. Achievement of India has crucial role to play in shaping the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals, has done a commendable job in providing clean and efficient energy to the people. Pradhan Mantri Ujjwala Yojana (PMUY) has provided around the 15 million connections till date and the aims to provide the 18 million LPG connections by 2020 to the BPL household. The government is committed to provide 24/7 reliable and quality power supply to the people by 2019, and the direction Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gram Jyoti Yojana, which is DDU-GJY schemes, and the Subhagya schemes has been launched to achieve the 100% village electrification and the last mile connectivity. Because of all these efforts, till now around the 78% of the rural household have been electrified. India has increased the share of the renewable energy, which is around the three times of what it was in 2017 till November 2017. Total installed capacity in India was around 330 gigawatt, out of 18% was the renewable energy sources. Ministry of the Finance has issued the guideline for the mandatory installation of the energy efficiency appliance in all central government in the buildings, which is implemented by the Energy Efficiency Services Limited (EESL) by 2020. According to the Lawson, there is a reduction in the gender gap in India by the half over the period 2008 to 17, and was the result of the access to modern energy sources to the women and the girls, thereby leading to positive impact on the girls and education and employment. But there are few cases raising questions on the accessibility of the sustainable and affordable energy, like wide regional gap in the electrification of the household. However, on the basis of the pace of development work, we can say that India will be able to achieve the goal SDG 7 within the dedicated time frame. Comment on the important changes introduced in respect of the long-term capital gain tax (LCGT) and the dividend distribution tax, which is DDT, in the Union Budget 2018 का budget, of course. Indian economy institutes related to planning and mobilization of resources, growth, development, and the employment. Long-term capital gains tax (LCGT). It is the tax paid on the profit generated by the assets such as the real estate company's shares and the held for the particular time frame, generally more than a year. The University 2018 to 19 reinforced a 10% tax on the long-term capital gain and the arising from the transfer of the listed equity shared. And the dividend distribution tax, which is DDT, is the tax imposed by the government and on the domestic companies which is pay dividends, which pay dividends to their investors or the shareholders. A 10% tax on the distributed income by the equity oriented mutual funds was also introduced in the budget of 2018-19, and the long-term capital gains the tax existed Union 2005 existed Union 2005, but was removed to encourage greater participation in this equity market. Though it did have its intended effect, but it has also had the side effect of the business surplus. Being invested in the financial assets due to the attractive return on the investment. This benefited corporates preliminary and also created a bias against investing in manufacturing. It has also led to significant erosion in the taxes basis, resulting in the revenue losses. Keeping in the mind in the point of the mentioned above, the decision to bring back long-term capital gain tax on the listed equities holds merits. Moreover, the long-term capital gains in unlisted shares are currently taxed, and LCGT on the listed shares, and the advantage enjoyment by the later bringing them on par. In additionally, the tax on the distributed income by the equity-oriented mutual funds will provide a level playing fields across the growth and oriented funds, and which is the dividend is reinvested back into the stocks and the dividend distribution funds. Investors receive the regular income through the dividends, and up until now, dividends from the equity-oriented funds were tax-free and were also exempted from the paying the DDT, dividend distribution tax. However, these changes should also be followed by the abolishing or the reducing the securities transactions tax rates and the levied on all transactions made on the stock exchange, which could lead to the double taxation if continued. Now will come the minimum support price. Minimum support price (MSP) is a form of market inventions by the government of India ensure the agriculture producers against any sharp fall in the farm prices during the bumper productions year. The major objectives are to support the farmers from the distress, sales and the produce food grain for the public distribution. The MSP are announced by the Union government at the beginning of the sowing season for the certain crops on the basis of the recommendation of the Commissions for the Agriculture Cost and the Prices, which is CACP. Benefits of the MSPs to the farmer: remuneration. Fixed remuneration. The farmers are financially secured against the vagaries of the prices instability in the market. Social security. The fixed prices for the different crops saved farmers from the distressed selling, and this in turns help them to get out of the clutches of the money lenders and the middlemen. Diversification of the crops. The MSP announced by the Government of India for the first time in 1966 to 67 for the wheat has been extended to the around 24 crops at the present, and this will encourage the farmers to grow these diverse crops to maximize their income. However, lots of add to be done as far as for MSPs for the different crops are concerned, besides increased quantum and the diversification of the MSPs, and the procurement of food grains must also be streamlined in order to sustain the investment in agriculture and ensure the food securities in the country. So there is a two term, which is one is the MSP, second is the PP, which is procurement price. MSP is declared as a before the crops, before the growing or harvesting the crops, but after the harvesting the crops, PP, which is procurement price decided by the under the rule of the government. Procurement price of commodity refers to the prices at which government procures the commodity from the producers and manufacturers for maintaining the buffer stocks on the public distribution system, and these prices are announced by the government. The procurement under the price support is taken up mainly to ensure the remunerative prices to the farmers for their products produced, which works as incentives for the achieving the better production. The farmers are paid pre-announced price of their crops, and the prices is called the minimum support price, which is MSP. Buffer stock is maintained to distribute the food grains in the deficit area and among the poorest strata of the society, and the price lower than the market price, also known as issue price. Procurement price are usually higher than MSP, and it is price which is actually procuration of the crops and takes place. Procurement is the process of the purchasing good or the services in is usually in refers reference to the business spending and business procurement requirement preparations and the solicitation payment process, which usually involves several areas of the company. Supermarket has been modern inventions that submitted marketplace and then especially the urban areas and the directly purchase food items from the farmers on the farm enterprises. It is self-service retail shops offering a wide variety of the food and the household products. India is one of the leading producers of the vegetables, fresh fruits, and the number of the food item marketing fruits and the vegetables especially is one more challenging than many industries produce products because of their perishability seasonability, and the bulkiness. And so, as part of the supply chain, the supermarket responds to upstream side demand and absorb the downstream side risk with the objective to augment, retain, and satisfy customers. Presently in India, about 960 million tons of solid waste is being generated annually as by production products during the industrial, mining, municipals, agriculture, and the other process of 350 million tons are organic waste and 290 million tons are the inorganic waste, which is 4.5 million tons are toxic in the nature, and but approximately 90% of the waste generated is the dump rather than the properly disposed of. Impediment is in disposing of the waste, lack of the trained and the qualified waste management professionals, lack of the accountability in current solid waste management (SWM) system throughout the India, limited budgetary support to cover the cost associated with the development and a proper waste collection, storage, treatment and the disposal. Limited environmental awareness combined with low motivations has inhibited innovation and the adoption of the new technologies and that could transform the waste management in India. Lack of the coordination among the government and the civil agencies, local waste connection of the groups and public attitudes to waste are also major barrier to improve the SWM solid waste management in India. Safe removal of toxic waste, proper collection and segregation of the plastic, e-waste, biomedical medical waste and the other solid waste in the site of this generation. Recycling waste to energy conversion, use of the plastic in making the road, and use of the green waste as a fertilizers can be a way is solving the problems of the waste accumulation. Replacing dumps with properly and management engineering landfills to reduce the environmental impact of the waste and to prevent toxic leak, and the monitoring at the ground by the civil agencies, awareness campaigns on the lines of the Swachh Bharat mission. Implementation of the solid waste management rule backed by proper legislation and the participation of the self-use group and the NGOs, and the promotion to startups to use solid waste and to create innovative solutions. Considering the pace of the urbanization in India, this is the imperative that more waste will be generated in town and the cities, and thus we need to take above mentioned step, keeping in mind the aspects of the cleanness. Ramsar concept of wise use in the context of the wetland conservation sites. To example, wetlands are the ecosystem saturated with the water either seasonally or the permanently. They include the mangrove, marshes, rivers, lakes, deltas, floodplains, and the flooded forest, and the rice fields, even the coral reefs. Wetlands are the vital for the human survival as they are among the world's most productive environment, cradles of the biological diversity that provides water and the productivity upon which countless species of the plants and the animals depend for the survival. Ramsar concepts of the wise use. According to Ramsar Convention on the Wetland, wise use of the wetlands is maintenance of their ecological character, achieved through the implementation of the ecosystem approach within the spirit of the sustainable development. Guidelines is Guidelines of the wise use adopt the national wetland policies and the legislature and institutional arrangement to deal with the wetlands. Development programs of the wetland inventory, monitoring, research, training, education, and the public awareness. And take actions involving the development of the integrated management plans covering the every aspects of the wetlands and their relationship with their catchments. India Now, this is not the correct data. 43 or more than 46 sites for the Ramsar. Sites in India. 2020. 13 August 2022, Environment Ministry announced the additional of 11 more sites for the Ramsar list. As per 15 August 2020, there are now total of 75 Ramsar sites in India. Karaikal Bird Sanctuary in Tamil Nadu, Palikkarni Marsh Reserve Forest in Tamil Nadu, Pichavaram Mangroves in Tamil Nadu, Pala Wetlands in Mizoram, Sakhya Sagar in Madhya Pradesh. New sites added in August 2020, which is Kothankullam Bird Sanctuary, which is Tamil Nadu, Gulf of the Mannar Marine Biosphere Reserve in Tamil Nadu, Bambanar Wetland Complex in Tamil Nadu, word century in Tamil Nadu. Vedantangal word century in Tamil Nadu. Uttyamarthandapuram word century in Tamil Nadu. Satkosia Zords in Odisha and Nanda Lake in Goa. Ranganath Thiru word century in Karnataka. Sirpur wetland in MP. Hirakund Reservoir in Odisha and Tampara Lake in Odisha. Ansupa Lake in Odisha, Yashwant Sagar in Madhya Pradesh, Thane Creek in Maharashtra, Bedur word century in Tamil Nadu, and Chitrangudi word century in Tamil Nadu. Kanirkulam, it's a word century in Tamil Nadu. Suchindram, Therur, wetland complex in Tamil Nadu. Haigam, wetlands conservation reserve in Jammu Kashmir. Hisam, Selbuk, wetland conservation in Jammu Kashmir. Selbuk. It's newly added 21. I'm saving first. 75. Oh my god, 15th August, 75. I'm saying. Chilka Lakes, Odisha, and Kevla Dev, which is National Park in Rajasthan, were the first Indian wetlands added to the Ramsar site in 1981, and Chilka was removed later on. India has the highest number of the Ramsar sites in South Asia. Tamil Nadu has the highest number of the Ramsar sites in India with 14 Indian wetlands, following by the Uttar Pradesh with the 10 wetlands on the first as on the August. Renuka wetlands is some smallest wetland sites of India, and Sundarban is the largest one. Bakhira, which is in UP, right? Bakhira Wildlife Sanctuary, it is the largest natural flood plain wetland of India, Sant Kabir Nagar district of the eastern UP. Santi Watts Sanctuary, which is also known by the ancient name of the Dehar Jheel. It is famous for the migratory birds. Sarsai Nawal Jheel. It is an example of cohabitation of humans and the wildlife sanctuary. Upper Ganga River, it is the habitat of the Gangas, river dolphin and gharial crocodile, 6 species of the turtles and others. So, Sur Sarovar, it is a human-made reservoir. It is also known as the Keetham Lake. A spotted eagle and Klanga, Cyrus crane, Grun Antizan, and the catfish and the Velogo A2 are found in this lake. Parvati Agra Bird Sanctuary is located in the Gond district. It is also the Oxbow Lakes, Parvati Tal and the Agra Tal. Sultanpur National Park. It is located in the Gurgaon district of the Haryana. It's part of the Central Asian Flyway route. Amur falcons, Egyptian vulture, and plovers and ducks can be seen at this lake. Nanda Lake comprises the intermittent freshwater marshes that lie adjacent to one of the major tributaries of the Juar River. Khesadia Wildlife Sanctuary, Khesadia. It is home for more than 250 species of the migratory birds. It has a unique ecosystem having both freshwater lakes and the salt freshwater marshland. Beas Conservation is also the first river to declared as a conservation reserve. Gharial reintroduction in the Beas Conservation Reserve in the MBCS program of the Punjab government. Vitarkanika mangrove. It is a mangrove wetland in Odisha. It is famous for the hosting olive ridley sea turtle, which is vulnerable in IUCN data list. IUCN status. It has the highest density of the saltwater crocodiles in the country, and the Gahirmata Maritime Wildlife Sanctuary bounds to the Vitarkanika Wildlife Sanctuary to the east. Tampara, it is also the longest freshwater lake in Odisha. Oh my god, it is 275 with the depth. You cannot reach it. Back. China Park Economic Corridor. Back. No, you cannot.